This is Ashley Campbell, Daily Encouragement. I had a little time this afternoon, just got done with homeschool, and I wanted to jump on here and share with you guys something that I'd read in a book that I've been reading probably the last few weeks or whatever. It's called Bringing Up Boys from Dr. James Dobson. And it's been very kind of insightful as far as all of the feminists propaganda that really, if you look at what's happening in the world right now, has been the primary influence to I'm going to say majority of the problems that we're having right now in the family, children, just really socially too, with all the confusion among, the younger generation. Am I a boy? Am I a girl? What am I? And so I want to share something with you guys really quick that was in this book. So he's referencing an article that was published in 1999. Now, you guys, I was born in 85. And, so 1999, I was like 12 or 13. I was a mom by the time I was 16. And I wasn't really necessarily like paying attention to all of this crap. But now that I'm reading this book and I'm looking at what's going on, it's been very relevant. So check this out. It says, two academics, Karl Auerbach and Louis Silverstein, both from Yekshivia University, I have no idea how to pronounce these words, published a terrible article in 1999 in the scholarly journal American Psychologist. It was a blatant piece of feminist, gay, lesbian propaganda entitled Deconstructing the Essential Father. In it, the authors claimed that divorce does not harm the majority of children. And in fact, a child who has never known his dad would not be the worst for it. If anything, they contended, fathers are actually detrimental at home because of the amount of family resources they consume. What the heck? Who needs them was the message. Women could do the job of raising boys more effectively without the involvement of their husbands or partners. For that matter, mothers were not considered essential either. Non-biological caregivers would do the job even better. What? Really? Non-biological caregivers would do the job better? Why do you think the school board in the state has been pushing so hard, right, to like really be the parents of your children? Seriously? Like, did you know there's people actually out there that publish things in the American Psychologist that you look up to and say, wow, that's a credible source, right? Anyway, non-biological caregivers would do the job even better. In other words, traditional families are not only necessary, traditional families are not only unnecessary to children, but kids are healthier without them. Wow. Then it goes, this article was passed off as a credible scientific research in a prestigious journal published by the American Psychological Association. So did you know that this stuff that parents follow from these institutions, they're coming out with stuff like this saying this is scientific evidence? I mean, when are we going to actually start questioning this crap that's coming out of the media or even in these journals that we read that we're like, wow, they're really going to help us raise good kids? This is the crap that they're saying and we're like agreeing with it? I don't think so. Anyway, this, mind you, despite the acknowledgement by the authors that our reading of the scientific literature supports our political agenda, we are interested in encouraging public policy that supports the legitimacy of diverse family structures rather than a policy that privileges the two-parent, heterosexual, married family. Wow. It says parents should be very skeptical for what they read about family life in the press and even in scientific journals. If the findings of a particular study sound nonsensical to you, the chances are they are nonsensical. So you guys, I already shared a couple articles with you guys out of this book before, but I just could not believe that they are literally just saying, nope, kids don't need fathers. Divorce doesn't do anything, And so the other thing I want to share with you guys really, really quick is kind of things that I think we got to get back to as a culture. Okay. Women, I think most women want to have a strong man. We need strong men right now. Okay. So he was talking about, a good family man. And he kind of broke that down. So he says good, referring to widely accepted moral values family, which points to purposes larger than self, and man, which acknowledges a norm of masculinity. So he was saying there's 4 traditional roles that men played at home. He's saying the first is to serve as the family provider. No one disputed 50 years ago that it was a man's primary responsibility to be the breadwinner. All right. The second thing, and I'm just going to read to you guys the stuff that I underlined. Number 2, the second contribution a father has made historically is to serve as the leader of the clan. This role became highly controversial with the rise of the women's movement, but it was rarely challenged before the 1960s. He's just saying dad was the final arbiter on issues of substance, right? So it was like a partnership. You know, it's not, you guys know what an arbiter is? I can't even pronounce the word, but it's somebody who's like the negotiator between the two parties. All right. It's like looking at both sides, not just going in there, just making one decision without having any knowledge or understanding. Right. But someone who's actually asking, trying to understand and making a decision based upon all the evidence that's there. That's really how God designed it. Okay. That's how God designed marriage. That man and woman would come together and they would talk about the things that need to be, and they would talk about the issues, right, that were important, what do you say, issues of substance, right? You know, think about what are some big things that families have to deal with, right? How are we going to raise the kids? As far as like, okay, are we both going to work? Is one person going to stay home? Where are we going to live? Where are we going to move? Like that kind of stuff. Both people are supposed to be involved in those kinds of decisions. As far as like how I arrange my house, right? How I arrange the living room, my husband doesn't care what I do, right? I don't have to go to him and be like, hey, babe, is it okay if I do this? He don't care, right? But if it comes down to like financial decisions and everything, I've always run stuff by him, right? It's just a respect. And so anyway, let's go on with these last 2 roles. It says the third contribution made by a father is to serve as protector. All right. It says each member of the family felt a little more secure because he was there. And then the last one, to provide spiritual direction at home. And, you know, I was talking to my kids. Well, so years ago, the job that my husband had, he had to go over to Japan for, gosh, he was there for probably like 3 weeks. And when he got home, my kids are like, Dad, like, we know that we're safe when mom's home, but we always feel better when you're home, Dad. Like, we know that we're going to be okay, right? If anything happened, like anybody tried to attack the house or whatever, you know, they knew that their dad was going to protect them. And it's just funny how how could any of these roles really just be controversial anymore? You know, is the problem, I was thinking about this morning, is the problem with the role? Is the problem the father? Or is the problem just the experiences that we've had with the roles, right? I mean, even some mothers are really horrible too, right? It's not just fathers. All right. There are horrible mothers. There's horrible fathers on both sides of the equation. But you don't throw out both the roles because of their failure. That's like saying we're going to get rid of all doctors, all lawyers, all attorneys, all people that have skills that actually help us just because of failure. No, we don't do that. We say, okay, they made a mistake, right? I mean, look at all the shit people we have in government right now. You guys aren't mad about them. They're completely failing at their job and you're still calling them your leaders. You know what I'm saying? Or you're saying that, oh, well, they're making the decision. You haven't fired them or got rid of them yet, right? Why are we getting rid of the foundation of the home, which is the man and the woman raising their children? They're not going to do it perfectly. I think probably some of the fears that like women have is, you know, men abandoning them and their children, right? And it's like, what is needed then? Is it trying to get rid of the roles? Is that, because that's the thing I was asking my husband yesterday. I said, if these people, right, that are writing up these articles that are getting published in these scientific journals are basically deconstructing the role of a father and this was back in 1999, destroying the role of a father, destroying the role of a traditional family, man and woman, okay? Biological man, biological woman. How does one kind of like, if you can't rely on the outside source anymore, how would one like navigate this situation? And I think for me, it was just like, you know what? This is why people need to be in touch with what they need. He was talking about this study or this thing that happened. Like, so majority of the statistics of people in prison is all males. And one year they decided to set up a table for the inmates to send out Mother's Day cards. Well, there was huge lines for that. So everybody wanted to send their mom a Mother's Day card. So then they're like, okay, it was a great success. We're going to do it for Father's Day. Father's Day comes, nobody showed up. Now, was it because there's something wrong with fathers, or is it the experience with that, right? You don't get rid of the role just because you've had a bad experience with it. Not everybody's a bad dad. Not everybody's a bad mom, okay? So again, if we can't trust these scientific journals that are coming out telling you how worthless your role is in your child's life, right? Oh, you don't need mothers, you don't need fathers, you don't need biological parents. Who the hell's going to raise your kids then, right? The state. Anyway, how would you navigate that? And for me, I think it's important that each person, each family would have to go back and say, okay, what was modeled to me while I was growing up? What did I need that I did not get? Did you guys know that's the whole basis of your values, right? So if you didn't get connection growing up, you probably value connection. You want to be with somebody who's going to, be connected to you, get to know you. There's probably, intimacy in the relationship, knowing somebody, not just having sex, you guys. Intimacy is not just having sex with somebody. It's actually knowing someone, knowing their thoughts, knowing their dreams, knowing their vulnerabilities, their strengths, all of that. So if we are going to be able to transcend the BS in the culture, right? How are we going to do that? I think we have to be able to look inside of ourselves and ask some tough questions. What do I need and what didn't I get? And how am I going to cultivate that in my own family, right? That will protect you from this BS coming in, trying to basically destroy you, destroy your family, right? That's what they're trying to do. And so anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting. I wanted to share it with you guys. I have not read the article that he mentioned. I thought maybe one of these days I probably should, and I'll do a video and we can talk about it. But, here, I want to share one last thing with you guys. He was just saying, now I want to focus on the two primary ways a dad's influence is transmitted at home, beginning with modeling. If character training is a primary goal of parenting, and I believe it is, then the best way to instill it is through the demeanor and behavior of a father. Identification with him is a far more effective teacher than lecturing, scalding, punishing, bribing, and cajoling. I can't pronounce that word. cajoling. I don't know what that means. Anyway, boys watch their dads intently, noting every minor detail of behavior and values. It is probably true in your home too. Your sons will imitate much of what you do. If you blow up regularly, insult your wife, your boys will treat their mother and other females disrespectfully. If you drink to excess, right? If you're drunk, right, you guys, I don't have any problem with people drinking alcohol. Okay. I think if you don't have self-control and it destroys your life, well, then obviously you need to put it down. Okay. That's where I stand on that. I'm a Christian. I'm not against alcohol. I don't think it's a bad thing. I have drinks on the weekend. Okay. But I don't get shit-faced drunk. All right. That's the problem. If you get shit-faced drunk and you can't control yourself, you're pissing on yourself, you're screaming at your kids, you're driving around drunk, you got no business drinking. Straight up. All right. Can we just keep it real on that? But can you control yourself? Ask the question. And if you can't control yourself, you need to go talk to God about it and say, Lord, I can't control myself with alcohol. Right? I'll maybe if I remember, I'll share something else with you guys really quick before let me finish this. And then let's see if I can jump back and remember what I was saying there. Okay. So if you love regularly insult your wife, okay. Your kids will be at risk for chemical substance abuse. If you curse or smoke or fight with your coworkers, your boys will probably follow suit. If you're selfish or mean or angry, you'll see those characteristics displayed in the future generations. And we know that. How many of you grew up with parents that would say, do what I say and not what I do? And you became a teenager and you're like, that is such bullshit, right? Didn't you hate that? You're like, what do you mean? Do what you say, not what you do. Like that's how kids are, and that's the reality of it. Here's the thing. Here's how I see it. If you don't want the responsibility of having children, then don't have children. It's okay. It is not a shame for you to acknowledge and admit that you don't want the responsibility, because it is huge responsibility. It's going to change your life. It's going to demand a whole new set of character from you that you might not even have, right? So if you don't want to go through the time and the discipline it's going to take to be a parent, then don't have kids, right? Don't burden society with little badass babies kids that don't got their shit together because you don't want to be a parent. You get what I'm saying? Know your limitations. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to do it. Then don't do it. It's okay. I think sometimes, and especially the community I was a part of, if you didn't want to have kids, if people didn't have kids, it was like, oh yeah. It was like, I'm grateful that they encouraged people to have as many kids as they wanted, and that's important. But there was also like a shame if the people didn't want to have kids. We know that kids are God's blessing, but at the same time, it's like, don't shame people for knowing their limits. It's okay. Would you rather have them continue to have kids that they can't take care of, right? That are clogging up orphanages and foster care and all these kids we got living on the street, all the children getting trafficked at times too. all because they said they didn't want to have kids. So then they have them because they feel maybe a pressure to have them. That's a whole nother conversation. But, I think that's important. If you're not going to take it seriously, then just don't even do it. Don't waste your time and don't burden society if you're not going to raise your kids, and do it intentionally. Okay. So, if you're honest, trustworthy, caring, loving, self-disciplined, and God-fearing, your boys will be influenced by those traits as they age. And again, that's why I tell you guys all the time, it's important for you guys to get yourself established. Only display on a regular basis what qualities do you possess. And we can tell what your qualities are by the behavior that you model at home, your attitudes, your actions, your behaviors, all of that can be a reflection. Now, we know sometimes people aren't that honest. What I mean is sometimes people act one way and they're not really the way that they act, right? So they're not really acting from character, right? They can say they're that, but they kind of go hand in hand. And so what was I going to say about that? Oh, that's what it was. God doesn't care about you living out things perfectly. He cares about you being honest. God is the spirit of truth. Not very many people are comfortable with being 100% honest with God. And then, how can I say this? Then they wonder why they struggle. Okay. You're not going to live your life perfectly. It's not going to happen. The best thing you can do is just learn to tell yourself the truth and to tell God the truth. No matter where you're at in life, what you got going on, what you're doing, what you like, what you hate, it doesn't matter. God desires truth in the inmost parts. And so that's really crucial. But anyway, the whole point of me getting on here, you guys, was to share a segment of that book with you about some of this horrible crap that's been passed down since God knows how long. I mean, I shared with you guys back in the 70s is when this junk started. And now we're seeing the fruit of it, the bad fruit of this shitty ass thinking. And I wonder, these people who are writing these articles, these extreme feminists, right? You got to ask yourself, what kind of homes did they come from? Are they people who had fathers that weren't in their life? That's the kind of stuff you got to learn to reflect on. This is why it's important that when people read these, oh, this is from the scientific journal. Just because it's from them, it's like, look at it and it's like, wait a second. Is there anything wrong with that? Right? Do you really think that, excuse me. Do you really think that your role as a mother is not important, or their role as a father is not important just because a scientist said so? Seriously? I mean, you guys, and if this was back in 1999 and these were credible sources, imagine how bad it is today, right? We've completely given our mind over to other people, right? You guys, I've talked about this before. How do you know if something is true? I asked the Lord that question years ago. I mean, it wasn't gosh, I guess it has been. I've been here for 3.5 years. So about 5 years ago, I was like, Lord, how do you know something is true? Have you guys ever asked that? Especially with all the stuff that's been going on. And the thought hit me, was like, Ashley, it can be tested. That's how you know something is true. It can be tested. That means you ask questions. How many of you are really good at asking questions? A lot of people are really good at taking orders. A lot of people are really good at being told what to do, but they're not good at asking questions. If they hear something, they go, that's kind of off. Wait a minute, what's up with that? You have to allow your own curiosity as a person to be cultivated so you can start walking in your own discernment and authority and insight. If you constantly just go with the flow, you're not going to be able to have keen senses for things that are going on. You're going to be a perfect candidate for deception because that's how it works. Deceived people don't ask questions. They just kiss ass. They do. They just do what they're told because they don't want the consequences of asking something that might reveal the very scam that they're trying to give to you. All right. It takes balls these days to actually be a person that's going to be like, wait a second. Is that right? Here's the thing. Check this out. You guys, did you know the truth is in you? God spoke to Adam and Eve in the very beginning in the garden. He says, hey, don't eat from the tree, right? He told them what they could do. Serpent comes to him, says, hey, didn't God say you can't eat from any of these trees at all? And they're like, Eve goes, wait a second. No, he didn't say we can't eat from any of them. He just said we can't eat from that one. They knew enough to save their butt. But what happened? They got deceived. How they get deceived? As soon as the serpent said, no, you're not going to die. God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like him. They're like, oh, wait a minute. So if we're already like here with God, this is a really good place. And I'm going to be more like him if I just eat that fruit. Give me that fruit. You want to know what caused the deception? What they did not know. It was their own ignorance. Okay? That is what causes the fall in your life. And that's the root of deception is ignorance. What you don't know. They didn't know they were made in the image of God. I mean, how many of you don't even know you're made in the image of God? Right? You know it, but you don't know it. You still walk around like you're a condemned sinner Christian person, right? You still walk around in the same old tapes. It's like, okay, I've been saved, but you're not really been transformed by that. It's a level of ignorance. We all have it. It's not a bad word. Ignorance is, I don't know. How many of you are actually willing to acknowledge what you don't know? Did you know that the only way that you're going to get set free from deception is to acknowledge what you don't know? So then you can ask the question and figure out what you need to know so you can make a better decision about things. The reason you're deceived is because it's either willing, you're like, well, I want to ask, but I'm kind of afraid to. You're living underneath the spirit of fear, right? You're like, well, I don't want to look like a dumbass in front of people. I don't want to look stupid. I mean, come on, you guys. Wasn't that beaten to your head in public school, right? Public school is like the perfect storm to raise people who are complete cowards because you go to school, you get teased your whole life there. And God forbid you look stupid even more because you got to deal with all these assholes at school that pick on you constantly. So you're not going to sit there and question anything because you don't want to get made fun of. So then you get generations of people getting out of college, getting out of high school that are just really good at doing what they're told and don't want to look stupid. So they just go along with everything. It's like the perfect machine, right? To bring up generations of people all at once, really. Right? Who are in line with what they're trying to do, deceive people, right? And so anyway, you guys, I just want to share that with you today. I was like, I cannot believe just the blatant, just the things that they say about men, right? It was disgusting, let's just get rid of the church, children aren't affected by this and that. They don't need a father. They don't need a mother. What? And then people actually believe this shit because it's in a scientific journal. You guys, you got to start getting better at, here's the thing. You know how I told you the truth is in you? When this serpent said that to her, something went off in her. She was like, that wasn't right. Did you know you still have that same mechanism within you to this day? How do I know? Well, have you ever had a conversation with somebody and they say something and you're like, what? That's not right. You need to start getting better about clarifying what they mean. Did you know if Adam and Eve would have done that, they didn't have the skills. That's a whole nother conversation. I really believe that they were like children in adult bodies, right? They were ignorant. They didn't know. They didn't have the reasoning skills that adults have. They were barely, I don't know how long they were on earth for. I have no idea. But I do know they were still in the learning stage. The fact that it says God told Adam to go name the animals and do those things, they were still figuring things out. They didn't know how to roll and subdue the earth, just like your kids don't know how to do stuff. You got to teach them, right? There's certain ages that they do things. And if you guys haven't learned this by now, we know God ain't worried about time, right? He will make you wait things out for a particular time. God is all about times and seasons. I know sometimes that's frustrating to me. I'm like, why do I got to wait? Because that's just how he designed it. God's a gardener, right? You put the seed in the ground, you can't make it grow any faster. It has its own process, just like we do. There was a process that Adam and Eve were supposed to go through, but it got interrupted when the serpent came in, questioned them, and then their own ignorance was revealed. Again, we can learn from that today, though. We don't have to continue to walk around that same ignorance, right? We can, if you're having a conversation with somebody or you're reading something and that thing goes off in you and you're like, huh? You need to start paying attention to that. God has given you your own radar system within yourself. Why did he do that? So your ass doesn't get manipulated and taken advantage of by people outside of you. Don't tell me that crap don't happen. It does, right? Any person at any time can become corrupt. All right? You have to know how to use your own senses because guess what? You don't know. You're not a mind reader. You might think you are, but you're not. Okay? You don't know a person's thoughts unless they tell you. Okay? And you have to be able to acknowledge what you're ignorant of so that way you can make better decisions and don't get taken advantage of. So own your ignorance. Stop acting like you know everything when you don't know shit, right? If you don't know, that's okay. I don't know. What did you mean by that? Figure that out. Start developing your own sense of discernment and truth, so that way you won't get taken advantage of by these dumbass people that are writing these horrible articles that this guy mentioned in the book that are destroying the very culture that you're living in, right? This is the stuff that we're up against. And so this is the kind of stuff that we got to get comfortable with doing, okay? Start asking questions. Start figuring out what you don't know. Start asking yourself, if you are married and have children, right? What do each of you need in your life? What was modeled to you and what do you need? And start being diligent about adding those things into your life. Stop making excuses. That's the other thing people do too. Oh, this is just the way it is. It's only the way it is if you say that's the way it is. All right. God, this is how I see it. Every person that was born was a reset button on humanity. Okay. You were here. What's that scripture in Acts? It's like Acts 17. It says that God's put everybody on the earth and their appointed boundaries and their appointed times. You are a reset button on humanity. Okay. Stop with this. Everything is just fatalistic. This is just the way it is mentality. No, you can change your mindset at any given time. That's the beauty of what God, that's the beauty of us. God knows what he's going to do. But guess what? You don't know everything. God, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to change your direction if you discern that you need to. It's not fate. Oh, well, this is just what I learned and was handed down to me. You can stay with that if you want. But how are you going to protect yourself and really your own generation behind you if you don't start cultivating your own insight? Do you want to continue to be manipulated by these institutions outside of you because no one has actually talked to you about how to discern your own and uncover your own? This is important stuff, right? So grow in your understanding and insight. Figure out what you don't know and start adding things into your life. There's not a problem with a mother and a father. The role is not the issue. It's all of our experiences that we've had with those roles. It's the hurt. It's the lack. All right. Now you're responsible for figuring out what you need and bringing it back into your life. Create that with your own family. That's why God gave you a family. So you can create what you didn't have. That's where your values come from. Your values come from what you did not receive when you were growing up. Okay. So start figuring out what do you need and then start asking yourself what's driving your behavior right now. And I talk about all of this, you guys, in my book, Nuggets of Truth, Volume 1. It's in the appendix. I'm telling you, if you guys do the work, it's going to change your life. So I'm going to get off here because it's already been 27 minutes. But I just want to share that with you because I was literally pissed when I read that article this morning. Well, I read what he was saying about it. One of these days, I'll get on here and I will find the article that he was referencing and read it, maybe read it with you guys. And you can start to see some of this BS that's been permeating our culture and actually just start saying, no, this is bullshit. Like, can we start doing that, please? Let's start actually sticking up for ourselves. Seriously. All right. Our children need a father and a mother straight up. If you can't provide that for your children, then stop going out there and having babies straight up. All right. Put a rubber on it. Get your tubes tied. Do something. Stop having children if you're not going to take it seriously. Children need a mother and they need a father, and they need a mother and father who's going to be willing to go through, figure out what they need and take responsibility for those needs. Learn how to communicate with each other. We don't need any more BS being produced. Okay. We don't need any more confused children, generations of confused children. And that reminds me, one of these days, I got to share this article with you guys. It's called Parents Disorders Driving Surge in Trans Kids. So I'm like, transhumanism by proxy describes narcissistic parents who may push transgenderism because they enjoy the attention of having a trans kid. What the hell is going on here? The only reason I haven't read this to you guys yet is because I don't know what this means. When it says by proxy, have you guys ever heard them use that term like in government and stuff too? Like when they're doing, I don't know if you guys listen to any of the hearings. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch Fox. You know what I do? I try to find the live stream hearings of our representatives talking about the issues, and I watch that. I don't need somebody else to spoon feed me what these people are saying. That's the other problem we're having right now. You guys just got to start going to the source yourself. All right. Oh, it takes too much time. Well, that's the problem. You're not developing your own thoughts about things because you're not actually listening to the people that are saying it. You're so busy listening to what someone else said about it that, and then you think that's the truth. You know, people have their own bias and filters that they run information through all the time. Read it yourself. Ask questions. But anyway, by proxy, people say that all the time. Like, yeah, by proxy. I don't know what that means. So I got to look that up and then I'll read that article to you guys. But the point is, why the hell would parents push transgenderism on their children just because they're getting attention from it? Lord help us. Sick, sick, sick. Anyway, I'm going to get off here, you guys. Hope you have a great rest of the night. As I told you guys, there's brand new podcast releasing Monday through Thursday of this week. You guys can check out my podcast, Daily Encouragement with Ashley Campbell. It's on all the podcast platforms. If you guys still want to get a signed copy of my book, I got 4 left. I talk about establishing your values and your character. That is so important to do because that's really the foundation of your life. If you're struggling and you feel confused, you're like, well, I don't know what my values are. Well, start asking yourself some important questions. I ask you guys those questions in the back of my book. You guys have to start grounding yourself so that way you don't get swept away in all this BS that's going on in the world. But so anyway, if you guys want to get a signed copy of my book, you can. Like I said, I got 4 left. You guys can check out the podcast. New episodes Monday through Thursday this week. Other than that, I'll be back on Friday, you guys, for Food for Thought Friday. Or if I got time during the week and I got something I want to share with you guys, we'll really just see how it goes. But I'm going to get off here. You guys have a great rest of the night, and I will see you on Friday.